At every single level, legal, political, human, an extraordinary showdown today in court still happening. The ex-president coming face to face with the man who used to do his dirty work, who now has turned into the key witness in the first ever criminal trial of an American ex-president. Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former personal lawyer and fixer, is still on the witness stand. He's been there all day, nearing the end of just his first day of testimony. Michael Cohen revealing detail after excruciating detail about what it was like to work for Donald Trump and make sure that the boss always looked good in the public eye. Work that Trump would praise him for. When he did that, Cohen testified that it would make him feel, quote, like I was on top of the world. Cohen was a guard dog protecting his boss at all costs. Trump's former pit bull today corroborated all of the interactions this jury has already heard about over the past few weeks. That includes the all-important meeting at Trump Tower in 2015. That's the one with David Pecker of the National Enquirer and Donald Trump, where the catch-and-kill scheme was originally hatched. Michael Cohen testified to conversations about keeping the story of Donald Trump's affair with Playboy model Karen McDougal quiet. He testified to how he arranged with Pecker the $150,000 payment to McDougal to bury the story. The jury then heard the only conversation Cohen had with Trump that he taped, which Cohen said he did to make sure that Pecker knew he would be repaid.
I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
so what are we going to
funding. Yes, and it's all the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be. Correct. So I'm all over that, and I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
I'll pay for cash.
No. I got no.
Check.
Cash? Check? No. That conversation. But the weeks of trial we have already watched, what we've already been through, leading to the big moments today, where Michael Cohen described all the details of that $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. It occurred at a time, he noted, when his boss, Donald Trump, was already polling poorly with women because of the release of the Access Hollywood tape. Now, the lawyer for the prosecution, Susan Hoffinger, when discussing Stormy Daniels' claims, asked Cohen this, quote, what, if anything, did you think about the potential impact that might have on the campaign? Catastrophic, Cohen says, quote, horrible for the campaign. Cohen testified that when he shared with his then boss the fact that Stormy's story had resurfaced with just weeks to go ahead of the 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump was very angry. He said this, quote, I thought you took care of this. I thought this was under control. It was Trump. To which he followed up to Cohen, quote, just take care of it. The ex-president told Michael Cohen to work with David Pecker, who we know from David Pecker's testimony responded when it came to paying off Stormy Daniels by drawing a line in the sand and saying, quote, I am not a bank, leaving it desperate and now berated by his boss, Michael Cohen, to do what he could figure out how to do to take care of it at Trump's direction. So Michael Cohen then testified that Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Keith Davidson, wanted an immediate wire transfer of the hush money to keep that Stormy story out of the news. But Michael Cohen was trying to push it beyond the election, as he had been instructed to do by, wait for it, Trump, saying a sentence that gets to the heart of the case, Trump's intent. Cohen said, quote, I was following directions. In just the last hour or so, we heard Michael Cohen go through in, again, excruciating detail, the back and forth that he had around his making of the hush money payment, reiterating that, quote, the whole purpose of this transaction was to keep it quiet, to keep it confidential. Cohen testified to making the payment through an LLC called Essential Consultants. He set it up just for this single purpose, about which he lied in one of his bank forums because he knew they wouldn't have opened it if they knew its true intent was to pay hush money to Stormy Daniels, a porn star, on behalf of Trump ahead of an election. Then the jury heard about the frantic scramble by Michael Cohen and Team Trump when the Wall Street Journal story breaks about the Karen McDougal catch-and-kill scheme, as well as Michael Cohen's disappointment and not being brought to Washington, D.C., to the White House when Trump eventually becomes president. Now, this is still happening. We join you in the middle of this live event. We're still monitoring the courtroom. That's why Andrew's got not one, but two computers in front of him to do just that for you. It's where we start today with our most favorite reporters and friends. Joining us here at the table for the hour, both back from the courthouse, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman's here. New York Times investigative reporter Suzanne Craig is back with us for the hour. Donnie Deutsch, host of the podcast On Brand. We're going to start with my friend and colleague, NBC's Vaughn Hilliard, joining us from outside the courthouse. Vaughn, we've got you for the whole hour, but just take me through what this has been like to listen to Michael Cohen essentially corroborate testimony we heard from the first witness, David Pecker. I think he was the third, Keith Davidson. We then, of course, heard from Stormy Daniels a lot of these details. But Michael Cohen testifying to all the back end, and I guess more importantly, the person pulling all the strings, Donald Trump.
Right, Nicole. Look, the jury here today, here in the middle of May 2024, heard from a man who says that he was working as the middleman for the soon-to-be president of the United States, Donald Trump. What he told this jury here today was that he was the operative working behind the scenes to silence the salacious stories from getting to the American public, and that the entire time when it was Dino the doorman who alleged that he had a story about a love child of Donald Trump's, it was $30,000 payment that made its way to Dino the doorman to silence him. Who was apprised of that arrangement? Donald Trump. You had Karen McDougal, the Playboy playmate, who alleged a 10-month affair with Donald Trump. And who was the one directing and who was the one apprised every step of the way of that arrangement of $150,000 to pay her off? Donald Trump. Who was the middleman? Michael Cohen. And then you have Stormy Daniels. And here in riveting testimony today, Michael Cohen saying that he was, in fact, told by Donald Trump to make her story go away. On October 8th, 2016, he tells this jury that he had a phone call with Donald Trump the day after the Access Hollywood tape dropped, the day before a presidential debate. And on that phone call, Donald Trump was frustrated to hear that Stormy Daniels was shopping around her story of her alleged affair with Donald Trump. And then, though, you have other phone calls over the intervening weeks in which Michael Cohen says that phone records show that the two men engaged about the effort to not only have that story go away, but also attempt to have it go away after the 2016 election without having to actually pay Stormy Daniels that $130,000. But then you have Michael Cohen saying on October 28th, he had a 5-minute phone call with Donald Trump in which he told his boss, the man that he referred to as the boss or Mr. Trump, that the story was gone, that it was taken care of. He had taken out a home equity line of credit to make sure that in those final 2 weeks, the American public would not learn about her story. So the jury now has a man himself who says that he effectively worked on behalf of Donald Trump. The quote of the morning, quote, "I was following directions." Those are the words that the jury now has to reckon with here.
You know, Donnie, there were some details. I've only known Michael Cohen on the other side of his love-hate relationship. I've only known him on the hate side of his love-hate relationship with Donald Trump. But some of the testimony spanned the love side. And there were two things, and I know this jumped out at you too, Andrew, where he said, how would you feel when he thanked you for solving his most vexing, we'll just call them sordid kinds of issues. And he said, quote, "I felt like I was on top of the world." And the other detail that I know, I've interviewed him on the show a ton, I've talked to him a ton, I've read his books, that when he's offered the job, he never goes back to his old office. It's like the dream job. He's offered the job, he stays, and someone else goes and gathers all of his stuff. I don't know that I appreciated how much he loved working for Trump.
He loved it. I'll never forget, Michael was making a bar mitzvah for his son, and he was as much focused on whether Donald Trump was going to come to that bar mitzvah. That meant it was almost like a father who was out of town. Are you going to make it? Are you going to make it? I mean, it was an ongoing thing for him to come to his son's bar mitzvah. His own self-worth was completely tied up. If you really think about Trump and all the words you used for Trump, I mean for Cohen, you know, belligerent and tenacious and pugnacious, it's Trump. I mean,
Trump, even more than his own son.
Trump, he's a lot more. That's a great point. He is a lot more like Trump than Trump's own sons. And he, to this day, I think there's this sick affection deep down in there. He just was mesmerized. It gave him his reason to stick his chest out, and he stuck it out, and that's why there's a lot of people having issues with him, because he would have literally taken a bullet for him. He took out a home equity loan to pay off. It's
Donnie, he went to
insanity.
jail for him.
It's
I mean, I
insanity.
get you on the home equity loan, but he goes on to go to jail for him. And I